Everyone, my name is Carter, and for my research project, I focused on how masculinity affects emotional communication in young men, and especially in labor intensive jobs like firefighting and emergency services. So, this topic stood out to me because it relates to my own work experience, and I see these communication patterns every day on shift. Once I started looking at the research, it connected really well with what I've seen in my life. In my paper, I looked at how masculinity norms develop and how they affect the way men talk, express stress, or avoid expressing it. One of my main sources, Addis and Malik, explains that men are often raised to rely on themselves and hold things instead of asking for help. That idea affects communication at a deeper level because a lot of men end up thinking that staying quiet or handling everything on their own is being part of strong. I connected that idea to my own experience, both growing up and later working in the fire service. On shift, communication is usually direct and fast. If my lieutenant gives me an order, I already know what he means. And most of the time, there's no need for a long conversation. When I arrive on scene, I often know what equipment to grab without anyone having to say anything because the expectations are built into the job. Research from Ragland and from Bevan backs up this by showing that firefighters and emergency responders rely on short instructions, nonverbal cues, and staying composed during stressful situations. That lines up really well with how I communicate at work. Even in moments where I personally know the patient, I have to keep my emotions to myself and just focus on doing the job. Another part of my research looked at the hierarchy and proving yourself, which I connected to a source by Pacholak. She talks about how people in structured workplaces communicate in ways that reinforce their position. This applies to younger guys entering careers like firefighting. You want to show that you can handle the work, that you understand what's going on, and that you do not need everything explained to you. Because of that, you end up talking less, asking fewer questions, and concentrating on showing your reliability. Over time, that becomes your normal communication style, and it kind of harvests even outside of work. This led me to a point in my project where these same communication habits that show up in my friend group. Most of our conversations are quick check-ins or joking around or just about what we have going on. We support each other, but usually through actions instead of long emotional conversations. The research shows that these patterns carry over into adulthood, and I realize that a lot of ways I communicate with friends come from the same expectations that show up at work. The final part of my project looked at why improving communication matters in careers like firefighting. Being emotional communication does not make anyone weaker or less professional. If anything, I believe it strengthens the crew. Research shows that communication and trust directly affect safety, teamwork, and how well people handle stress. When responders have space to talk after a tough call or ask for clarification when feeling judged, things run smoother and the whole crew benefits. In my experience, even small improvements in how we talk to each other make a difference. Overall, this project helped me understand how masculinity shapes communication for young men and how that affects both personal relationships and high-pressure careers. It also showed me that improving communication is possible without taking away from the discipline or strength that these jobs require. It builds trust, reduces mistakes, and creates healthier ways to deal with pressure that comes from the fire service. Thank you for listening. That wraps up my presentation. Take care.